LNG Canada comes on board this year. Can you sort of just elaborate on the opportunity that creates?
Yeah, I think I'll give the listeners a bit of a context. All of Canada makes 19 BCF a day of gas, so that's all the production in all of Canada. The LNG Canada is coming on in 2025. They haven't given us the exact date when we're going to see the first ship leave the port, but they're taking in gas. It's already the pipeline that was built to the Kitimat, BC, is 100% complete. So they're already bringing in gas. That project, just phase one, is 1.9 BCF a day. 10% of everything we produce in Canada will now be able to be exported off the west coast of British Columbia. And there's the pipeline that they built is built to be able to handle 5 BCF a day. So we fully expect that at some point LNG Canada announces the second phase that they could then bring on probably within the next couple of years. They would take it to 4 BCF a day. So this is a massive project. It was a huge undertaking. So congratulations to the group that finally got it built. Because like you said, Mike, we've been talking about it for at least 10 years.
I want to talk energy right now. Specifically, I want to talk about natural gas. Phil Hodge is Pinecliff Energy. You know Pinecliff Energy, very successful natural gas company. Got lots of questions about that, but the big picture about natural gas, I kind of think we're coming in after a couple of difficult years into some brilliant opportunity here. Phil, thanks for taking time with us. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much for having me, Mike. Looking forward to it.
Let's talk big picture natural gas. It's my observation that, not that it wasn't obvious or true if we wanted to hear it, but if we are concerned about climate change, the substitution of natural gas for coal is a huge immediate benefit. I mean, sorry, I digress, but I look at Germany and the huge mistake of closing down their nuclear, for example, and they go to coal, and they don't support natural gas. But I think that attitude's changing. I read a lot about it, globally, let alone domestically. Finally, the attitude's changed. Yeah, I'm a fan of nuclear, but that's a longer term solution. Big fan. But natural gas is something we could start talking about tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Mike. I think there's going to be, you really have to, when you talk about the global use of energy, you really got to look at each area because what do they have access to? Coal continues to hit new record highs in global use, but not among the Western developing nations. And the United States has led the way in emissions reduction. How did they do it? They moved off of coal.
Yeah.
The province of Alberta is now 100% off of coal. And so there's definitely that shift is happening. And I know you've mentioned this before. I think the opportunity for Canada to play a real role in helping lower global emissions is our export of natural gas. And that is starting this year.
Well, speaking of that, it's kind of interesting. I was joking, thinking I probably had dark hair when we started to talk about LNG Canada. Not so much anymore as we see. But my point being that that's finally happening. It's not something we talk about, and we have, obviously, realistically. It's in the future, and we look at other projects delayed, et cetera. But LNG Canada comes on board this year. Can you sort of just elaborate on the opportunity that creates?
Yeah, I think I'll give the listeners a bit of a context. All of Canada makes 19 BCF a day of gas, so that's all the production in all of Canada. The LNG Canada is coming on in 2025. They haven't given us the exact date when we're going to see the first ship leave the port, but they're taking in gas. It's already the pipeline that was built to the Kitimat, BC, is 100% complete. So they're already bringing in gas. That project, just phase one, is 1.9 BCF a day. 10% of everything we produce in Canada will now be able to be exported off the west coast of British Columbia. And there's the pipeline that they built is built to be able to handle 5 BCF a day. So we fully expect that at some point LNG Canada announces the second phase that they could then bring on probably within the next couple of years. They would take it to 4 BCF a day. So this is a massive project. It was a huge undertaking. So congratulations to the group that finally got it built. Because like you said, Mike, we've been talking about it for at least 10 years.
Now, would they operate that and have existing contracts or promised contracts in place at this point?
Yeah, so the LNG Canada is a great name. It's owned by 5 foreign entities. And so they bring in their own reserves, their own gas, and then they sell it. They look after marketing it themselves. So
Mhm.
Shell and Petronas are the two biggest partners in that project. And then there's KOGAS, PetroChina, and Mitsubishi. So those are the 5 owners of that. There's another project that's being built, it's Salisma, which is a syndicate of Canadian companies, which would be another 2 BCF a day. Now they haven't announced the what they call final investment decision (FID), but and there are 2 other projects, smaller projects that are being built off the west coast, being the wood fiber and the Haisla. So it's quite exciting on the export side.
Well, and let's talk domestically also, and because it's something, a fact that you brought to our attention on Money Talks a while ago, but is the use of natural gas in our oil sands. You know, that it's a domestic use, domestic demand. And I think most people are surprised to hear the significance of that demand for natural gas coming out of, you know, that part of Alberta.
Yeah, I think it usually startles people when they hear the numbers. I mean, it is between 3 and 3.5 BCF a day. I just told you we only make 19 BCF a
19,
day.
yeah.
So the oil sands would be the biggest user of natural gas of anybody in North America. And the reason they use the natural gas is that they heat water to create steam to put it into the ground to allow the bitumen to flow. And so the TMX pipeline that was just built through Burnaby, BC, that enables us to be able to send out more oil exports, which allows then, we're going to see there we have the highest oil production right now that's ever come out of the oil sands. And so therefore there's more gas being used.
How does that fit with your company, Pinecliff, for example? You know, and there's other Canadian companies, but one of the things I've noticed about your company is, let's face it, the last 2 years in natural gas have been difficult. The prices have been extremely low. Doesn't matter where we are, but your company able to maintain its dividend. And I don't want to say I was surprised. Let me use the word impressed, though. No, I'm in seriousness, because you must be looking at that and saying, man, if we can get through those 2 years with able to maintain our dividend, you know, and what
Uh,
about when things start picking up?
Well, I thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. We're very proud of our team is quite proud of the fact we did something that I think we might be the only oil and gas company that did this last year. We didn't drill a well. It just didn't
Mm.
make sense for us. So we've focused on paying down our debt and maintaining our dividend. I mean, we've grown Pinecliff from 100 barrels a day back 13 years ago to over 23,000 BOE a day now, and we've done that through acquisitions. The really low decline rate, we have one of the lowest decline rates. We have a single digit production decline rate. That's helped us. But we're now getting close to having paid $100 million in dividends just in the last 2 years. You know, for a company that's only a $400 million enterprise value, we're very proud of that.
It is interesting, though, the change in attitude. I'm saying not in your company, but broadly speaking, you know, across the industry, about the value of that cash flow, the value of, you know, not assuming that the market's always there. I'm thinking, sorry, back to the 2014 period,
Mhm.
when I
Yeah.
think if I asked for lessons coming out of that, like 3 years later, 4 years later, I would have. And that's why I don't think you're going to see this massive pickup in production, because people are going to be cautious with their money, or really value that you have your cash flow, that you do support your dividends.
Well, Mike, I think you and I are both old enough to remember the days when the oil and gas sector, just about everybody overspent what they actually brought in,
Yeah.
and so that happened for a decade, and the markets applauded that. They wanted growth. They wanted people to be drilling. They would give more. They would do equity raises to allow them to continue to keep that growth profile. That stopped. I mean, you're seeing now a return of capital from our energy sector, and partly it's because there's been less investment in our sector from the U.S. because of the political perception around investing in Canada, and even there's been a lot of investors have gone off to go to tech or go to other areas. I think my own view is we're going to see a return of a lot of those investors when they you can't ignore the return of capital that's happening in our sector. Pinecliff's just one example. There is many good companies that are returning capital to investors, either through share buybacks or through the dividend. And they're doing that, as you just pointed out. I mean, the average price, AECO, which is the Western Canadian gas price, was $1.38 this last year. That's
Hmm.
very low.
Yeah.
But it was just 2 years ago that we had $5 gas prices. I mean, it's a cyclical business. That's just the nature of the beast. But all this new demand that's coming on is very positive. I'm very excited about this year and next year. I think Western Canada is going to be a very good place to be a natural gas producer.
Let me just throw the geopolitical overview here about President Trump. Of course, everyone's talking about the impact of President Trump. We do it all the time. Everyone is, the tariff question up right now. But, his commitment to energy is clear, and it was interesting to hear Premier Doug Ford talk about sort of an energy alliance with the U.S., of course, amongst this stuff about the 51st state and all that. I mean, the drama. I mean, he's a provocateur for sure. But
Yeah.
I'll leave that for right now. But there's no doubt that their attitude about energy has changed, and that could be a positive thing for Canada.
I think without a doubt. I think the reality is that they import a lot of oil and gas, and that's every single day. And so I think they see us as a very important part of what they can do. I mean, when he's talking about the exports of LNG to Europe, for instance, Europe's very interested in more, and they're having a cold winter, and so their price has gone up to $12 an MCF. And like I just said, we have $2 here. There's an arbitrage there that I think that they'll be able to take advantage of coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. The United States is now they're the largest LNG exporter in the world. In 2016, they didn't export anything. So that's how fast they've grown that. So he's well aware of the political advantage that he's got on that. I think from the Canadian perspective, I think the fact that we have this will be the first time we're able to export our natural gas to anybody other than the United States. That's a good thing. Anybody who's in business knows it's a good thing to have more than one customer. And so it's setting up very, very, we've all been, we can all lament that we didn't have more LNG built, that we should have been sooner. But the reality is it's finally here. It's going to make a difference. I think it's going to be a good thing for Western Canada, especially.
Well, I'm looking forward to it because you're going to be with us at the World Outlook Conference, Phil, and people are going to get a chance to hear you, but also talk with you, which is kind of fun. When you get a chance, as I love to do on this show, is getting energy insiders, to chat with us, the people who are on the ground, who know exactly what's going on in the industry.
I'm really looking forward to it, Mike. I mean, we are participating in your conference before. There's such a I'm always amazed how good the questions are. Very knowledgeable base that attend the conference. A lot of them are. I have an email subscription that people sign up for on our website, which has grown substantially in the last year. Which again indicates to me a lot more people are looking at energy, looking at natural gas in particular, and looking for places where they can get paid a dividend and still have the potential to have torque to the natural gas price increases.
Well, I think that's why I'm excited about it, because it's a great year. I mean, the groundwork's been set, as we've been talking about. LNG Canada comes on board, but there's so many other aspects to it.
The data centers.
Coming off a low. I'm an old guy. I love coming off the lows.
Yeah, I think you're right. The other thing, the topic that is getting a lot of attention is data centers.
Yes, a good point. Thank you.
Because of how much natural gas they're going to use. I saw a report yesterday come out that they think it's going to be another 4 or 5 BCF a day of gas needed in the U.S. to support this data center growth. So that's like building another 2 LNG terminals. I mean, that's significant.
Well, exactly the stuff you'll talk about at the World Outlook Conference and put some numbers to it. Phil, thanks so much for finding time now, though. Great stuff.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Phil Hodge, Pinecliff Energy.